Anyway, so I just decided to screw it and press the button, and now we are live. Madison Friedman, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Frank.
You're welcome. Or do I say thank you again? I don't know. But
thank you both ways.
Okay, thank you this way and that way and this way and that way.
Great.
Now that that's out of the way, you said you had some sort of a funny story about something. So.
Yes. Okay. So I, for the listeners at home, I am a Jewish woman, and I currently go to Christian school, which is not out of the ordinary because K through 8 I went to Catholic school, and I got used to it. It was great. All the teachers really liked me because I was one of the ones who was quiet and would not argue and would get good grades, so they liked those. And I just, at the end of like middle school, they had like an 8th grade graduation sort of thing where they would give out awards. And I remember sitting in mass in the cathedral, and I had like my little graduation thing on, and I was just like staring at the ground. And they had this one award, which was the last one they gave out, called the St. Bartholomew Award, where they introduced it as like, too many filler words.
Oh no.
They introduced it as displaying the most Catholic values throughout your time at San Carlos. And I remember specifically 2 girls behind me being like, "You're gonna get it. No, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. You're just the most wonderful. You're gonna get it," which is, you know, irritating to hear.
And probably an indicator that neither of them are going to get it.
And so I'm like staring at the floor because I was not expecting any awards. I got a few for, you know, academic things and doing a lot of clubs because I did a lot of clubs. I did yearbook and a few sports, and I was the ecology club president and the vice president of ASB for 2 years. But the St. Bartholomew Award, they, you know, gave this whole description where it was following the values of Jesus Christ and modeling yourself after God in any way possible. And I just remember listening to it like, yep, the same stuff I hear every month at Mass, you know, like do this to be like a good Catholic. And so I was staring at the floor like, I am the only Jew in the entire school. I will not be getting this. And I was just waiting to leave. And then they said, and the recipient of the St. Bartholomew Award is Madison Friedman. And I just about had an aneurysm. I was like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. And so I did.
Said the Lord's name in vain just to stick it to him.
Yeah. The most notable thing about going to receive that award, I don't remember actually like getting it in my hands or anything like that, but I remember walking and getting the sleeve of my graduation gown snagged on a pew and just like tugging on it because I was anxious and all the parents were watching me, and it was just like snagged on the pew, and I was just kind of pulling it and being stupid and not like, you know, properly releasing my arm.
But retrospectively, you can look back on that as some sort of statement that you were making about the incongruency of this award. So was there? So I remember when you told the story in the stand-up routine, right? Mm-hmm. You sort of implied that there was this connection between you and the person announcing the reward. Yes. That this is awkward for both of you.
Yes.
So was there some underlying like tension or distance being a Jew at a Catholic school, or was it like totally, I don't know.
It was fine because they knew me since I was 5 years old, and my sister went there as well from 5 years old to 13 years old. And so I grew up in that little community, and it was only 300 kids, give or take, the entirety of your time there. Like you would stay with the same 25 to 30 kids for those 8 years. You would have the same class schedule, everything. And so all the teachers knew me as like the one kid who was very like happy to be there and happy to learn and very cooperative. Mm-hmm. And so they all really liked me. And then, but there was like the one thing where I was not Catholic. I was not Christian. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was very polarizing for their minds to be, you know, so thoroughly convinced that, you know, my sister went through it and she was a really good kid. So they already had, you know, preconceived notions of me that they would like me, which was very handy. Thank you, Courtney, if you're listening to this. You're not, but thank you. So they all really liked me in the sense that I've already said this, that they just like cooperative kids at Catholic schools.
Yeah.
And so I think it was just fun for me and troubling for them that the only kid who they most consistently liked throughout those 8 years was the only Jewish kid in the school.
Okay, but most of the Bible is just Jewish stuff,
I know.
right? It's almost the same thing. You believe that a savior's, Judaism believes that a savior's gonna happen. They believe that it's already happened. Like, it's not all that out of line. You would think that, I don't know, maybe there, is there all that much tension between Christians and Jews, or am I overestimating the amount of anti-Semitism in Christianity?
I think the anti-Semitism comes much more from, like, the, very, just like people who would be racist. Like, for the listeners at home, before we started the podcast, we had a whole conversation about filler words and how I was raised in Catholic school to not say filler words, and now they are half of what I'm saying. But we carry on.
Yes.
I think it's, people like the, I'm going to say rednecks, even though I know many people from the South who are just wonderful, wonderful people. But you know the type. Like, Confederate flag waving, awful people. Not that, well, yeah. I was going to say not that the Confederate flag is inherently evil, but it is. There's been some talk about that in Twitter, where it's like the Confederate flag wasn't, always equivalent to slavery. Like, yes, it is. Calm down. Put your flag down. So yeah, the anti-Semitism just stems from ignorance and less from Christianity, I think. I think that Catholics really appreciate, like, ceremonial things and beautiful things more than, like, non-Catholic Christians. And so Judaism has a lot of that too, where they have very, like, beautiful ceremonies and very meaningful songs and meaningful procedures, and I think we share that. I wasn't raised Jewish as, like, a religion. It's just like in my genetics, which I think a lot of people sometimes don't understand.
Yeah.
That Judaism and being Jewish are two different things. But I don't have any religious leanings, really, in particular.
Yeah, and there is the Jews killed Jesus thing, but, like, somebody had to kill him.
Jesus was Jewish.
Yeah, no, it's like
Jewish.
Part of the whole Jesus thing is that he's gonna get killed.
Yes.
So they were kind of actually helping.
I know, yes.
Like, if you think about it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Good. We did you a favor.
Yeah. Well, wait, no, I'm a non-Jewish, non-Christian, so I'm just kind of like,
Yes.
Talk it out, everybody.
Carry on.
So yeah, Judaism.
Yes.
Pretty cool thing.
Pretty cool thing, yeah, for the most part. Yeah, there are some conflicts with Muslim people, but for the most part, every Jewish person I've ever met has been majoritively liberal and just really, really nice people, really borderline hippies in, they're more like civil rights sense, less economic sense, but, they just tend to vote liberal, and they tend to be not racist and just very good people. Not that not being liberal makes you a bad person, because it doesn't. But, they just tend to be really good people and tend to really think about equality.
Yeah. Anti-Semitism has always confused me because it just must be a pain to coordinate. Like, imagine, like, you're, Amy Rosenthal.
Yes.
You're driving your kids to soccer practice, and then you get a phone call.
Bold of you to think a Jewish child would ever be in a sport.
Okay. They're taking extra effort to infiltrate the normal people.
Yes.
And they get a call. She gets a call from her husband, Abe.
Yeah.
Abe Rosenthal, and he's like, "We've got an emergency meeting today at 6." She's like, "What? Can we not go?" "No, Benjamin Netanyahu says it's really important. We have to show up. Big plans have changed. We're facing more and more resistance from the whoever else, and blah blah blah." And she's like, "Look, I just have to get Come on,
Seth.
Jewish. Yeah, I just have to get Seth to soccer, and then I can come. He's like, you can't be late. Can you be there by 6? She's like, it's 5:40. Soccer practice is at 6.
It's 5:40, Abe. I can't be there by 6.
Oh my! It's 5:40. and so she's like, okay, fine. Look, you're gonna get excommunicated if you don't show up to this meeting. And so she drives over to this. She diverts from soccer practice to go to the Santa Cruz County secret Jewish meeting that they have at some big building, and then they've got a bunch of food and everything, and everyone sits down, and they've got a big Skype call with all of the New World Order Jewish people. Like, can you imagine how much of a pain that would be to secretly rule the world?
Yes.
So wait, what does that mean? Does that mean that you do? Did you have to miss a secret world takeover meeting in order to come to this podcast?
Well, the Illuminati loves to keep in touch. They love to have their branches and everything. But I'm a working woman. I'm striving for my career, so sometimes I just have to be like, Mr. Triangle, Mr. Oblique, I can't be there. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I will be there next time. And I'm like, you know what? It's okay. You're respected. It's all right. We understand.
Just don't snitch on us to a public audience.
Yeah,
live.
No. The lizard meme has been getting around too much. Just the more teens that are keeping busy, the better.
Yeah.
By the way, the lizard meme did stem from anti-Semitic values, though I will choose to ignore that because I think it's hilarious.
That's David Icke, right?
I think so.
Yeah. He's the originator of the whole reptilian thing. Which I don't know, I got this wrong. I always heard that the reptilians were the actual Earthlings, and that humans are like alien plants, and us mammals aren't the real Earthlings, which would imply that just let the reptilians do their thing, you know?
Yeah, let them chill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Return of the Body Snatchers?
No, I've seen the one scene where the guy goes. But that's it. I've seen that in 5 million video essays.
Just a fantastic movie. Okay, so there's this man who looks really Jewish, is I'm Jewish, I'm allowed to say this. He has a massive nose, he has a wonderful afro, a wonderful Jewfro.
Hey.
And he is just madly in love with this woman who is too beautiful for him. She is gorgeous. She's drop dead gorgeous. She is too pretty for him. And they work at the a health inspection clinic. And the whole premise of Return of the Body Snatchers is there are spoilers coming up. I don't know, skip to whatever minute unless you're watching live.
Yeah.
Sorry for you guys.
Or just time travel.
Yeah, time travel. That'll work. Get in touch with the Illuminati. I have some links. I can get you a time turner. I don't know. But in Return of the Body Snatchers, there's these little pods that come down to Earth, and they grow like flowers, and you take them, and they never really explain how they get inside you and take over your body, hence the name Return of the Body Snatchers. But it's implied that either you drink some of the pollen or you sniff it or something like that, and then it grows just wonderful practical effects in this movie, that they would have this whole cast of a human, and it would sprout out of this huge pod, and it would be big and slimy, and it was just wonderful because I bonked the mic, sorry, but really, really good movie. And you were talking about the shape-shifting reptilians, and just that, it just really reminded me of Return of the Body Snatchers. And also, if you want to see a dashing mid-20s Jeff Goldblum, please go watch Return of the Body Snatchers. He is just wonderful. I want to hold Jeff Goldblum's hand, and I know that this is to the public, and I hope Jeff Goldblum sees it. I want to hold Jeff Goldblum's hand. Thank you.
All right, now we know.
Yes.
Isn't Return of the Body Snatchers some sort of McCarthy era commentary?
Oh, definitely.
But is it? Do they? Are they paranoid about communists, or are they against the people who are paranoid about communists?
There's two different versions. The one in the 50s is about communists, and then the one in the 70s is about McCarthyism and individualism.
Okay, so they flipped it on him.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's Jeff Goldblum's character is this whacked out poet, and it's implied that he's always high, even though you never see him get high because he's just lost in the sauce constantly. And he is just wonderful. I just love Jeff Goldblum so much. I'm getting distracted thinking about Jeff Goldblum.
I was trying to get into a conversation about the the way that we retrospectively view history and about the different trends about communism and politics in the 1950s.
I insist that we talk about Jeff Goldblum. But if you want to talk about individualism, let's get into individualism.
No, I was just like, what was I gonna say? I don't know what I was like. Yeah, it's kind of funny that like there were so many. No, never mind. That was gonna be stupid.
Oh, say it.
Okay, but so theoretically, right? Let's just paint a hypothetical scenario.
Okay.
You work in Hollywood. You're a screenwriter.
Okay.
And you're just fed up with capitalism.
As I am now.
Mm-hmm. And you just wish for a better, more egalitarian way of distributing wealth and goods among a populace.
Ooh, hold on. I have a tip. I have a tip for the viewers at home. Did you know that if you pour in a pound of sugar into 2 pounds of concrete, it can no longer be used? So, if you feel like stopping something that will be built, I just feel like passing that information along. I'm not promoting anything. I'm not promoting anarchy. Wink, wink. But just so you know, that concrete can no longer be used if you pour sugar into it.
It's got to be a very inefficient way to cause mayhem.
Oh, but it's wonderful.
You can probably make bombs with like sugar and a couple other things that would do you really want to go for that's basically a prank.
Yeah. It would cost them so much money. Capitalism.
Okay, but so how much, so what's the ratio, what's the ratio between concrete and sugar that you need in order to...
I believe it's 1 to 2.
1 to 2. There's a lot of concrete that goes into a major operation that if you lost 10 gallons of concrete, then you wouldn't lose that much money.
But
so you've got to have a lot of sugar.
We're living in the United States of America. We have a surplus of sugar.
Okay, but it's still... Okay, even then, here's what I'm going to say to all of you anarcho-revolutionaryists out there, is that do you really want to have to huff all of those bags of sugar around and go to the construction site at night and then, like, bust into the concrete mixer and be like, come on, quickly, before they see us? And then you have, like, 50...
It's what Malcolm X would have wanted.
Yeah. Okay, but now I'm trying to figure out what's a better way to overthrow capitalism.
Ooh.
Because I really, no offense, but I don't think that sugar in concrete.
I know. You could stop buying gas. You could, I think that's a big one. Oil and gas. Get electric items, which you have a Nissan Leaf. Good job.
Yes.
You step there.
You're welcome.
Frank
Earth
hates
hater.
Capitalism.
You hate Earth.
You hate Earth if you buy gas.
Yes.
I refuse to buy a car until it's electric. That's why I had to be driven here. Thank you.
Meanwhile, all these electric cars are being manufactured in big old factories
that doesn't matter.
That spew a bunch
it doesn't matter. Just like how the not using straws is saving the Earth, I don't care how we manufacture the cars. Not using the gas will save the Earth. Yeah.
It's the thought that counts.
It's the thought that counts. It's the romanticism of being facetious that I love.
Yeah, if you just like demonstrate to all the capitalists who are like here, and then we're all here, right? And then the capitalists are up here.
Yes.
If you just show them, hey, I don't like you, they're gonna be sad.
They're gonna be so sad.
You don't actually have to like offset their whole economic scheme and everything.
It's the psychological long con.
Hey, you suck. And then they'll be like,
suck.
What?
I think your cufflinks look like you bought them at Target.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You just insulted a capitalist with a capitalist insult. You're using their own games against them.
Take that, Bill Gates. I don't care about your $20,000 cufflinks. I think they came from the dollar section of Target. Take that.
Yeah. Bill Gates, if you're watching this podcast.
Yeah, Bill Gates.
That I'm broadcasting from my Microsoft Windows computer.
Bum, 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 ba-da-da-dum, ba-dum. Yeah, I think it's important for young people to form their own political opinions. As, like comic as mine come out, I'm glad that a lot of young people, just are getting more educated in general about politics.
Okay. I don't know. I just hate politics at this point. And I tend to like want to back away from being a stupid teenager and caring about politics. And I might be inclined to see that in other people, but I don't know.
You're allowed to like politics and not have to be so loud about it that it feels like you're just one of the teens punching the air in the 60s. You know, you're allowed to be educated. And, you know, I think you are really educated. Whenever you talk, it sounds educated, at least. I don't know what's going on behind the forehead.
It's actually a pretty complicated means of trickery.
Yes.
I know a lot of buzzwords that can get people to think, wow, he knows his stuff, when really if you like press me on it,
yes,
I have no idea.
If you remember, I threw out the word facetious a few seconds ago. I don't know what that means.
It means,
I think it means what I think it means, but I don't know.
Facetious means like fake.
Okay.
It has a clear phonetic lineage.
Yeah, I don't remember how I used it because I have an awful memory. Just abysmal. But I know I used it.
No, I remember you using it.
Yeah.
I was kind of confused as to why you used it. So this
Me
revelation
too.
that you didn't quite know what it meant explains a few things.
Me too. Yes. AP Lit, by the way.
AP Lit. If you're not in AP Lit, stop watching this podcast.
Yeah. Gentleman, man.
He's an interesting guy. Let's leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, no, what were you going to say?
Well,
Think about it first, and then say it.
I don't want to get him in trouble.
Oh.
So we'll move on.
Okay.
It's nothing like serious. He just made a comment, and, you know, our book circle awkwardly laughed, and he awkwardly laughed, or he giggled and walked away. It was an entertaining comment. I know Josh Clymer probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. It was about Greek theater, Josh. You remember. So if any of you want to know, talk to me or Josh.
Yeah. I think it's funny that independent reading is called independent reading because it's not very independent.
No, it was last year.
You're graded on the extent to which you read. Even last year,
well, yeah.
You had to demonstrate that you read the book for a grade. That's not independent.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's integrated into a lot of the modern American system. What with Common Core, they're like, we care about every student's individual learning capacity and how they learn and what they're learning. And here is exactly how you will teach it, what they will learn, and here is the SAT, the ACT, everything.
Yeah,
and
the AP test, the AP test.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, I am so sick of people still like having this pipe dream that there's such thing as like independently motivated learners.
Yeah, when of course there isn't.
We are required by law to go to school. We literally have to be here.
Yes, I have to be
and
at
so
a
the
school.
way to get us to do stuff is to make it worth a grade.
Yeah.
So it's and then you still see people who aren't jaded enough to realize that and just think well, I think that students should learn because they love what they're learning.
Yeah. I have so much cartoonish hatred inside of me for such random things. It's almost ridiculous.
There are things that I have vitriol for that are just completely. So what's like the one that was coming to your mind?
Just in general, I get very jaded very quickly. Okay, I was writing my senior survey last month. I was filling out my senior survey last month, and one of the questions is, do you think you achieved your highest potential?
I went off on that question. That's
Me
the
too.
stupidest question I've ever heard. The answer is yes. If anyone says no, now you might have said no and I'm about to like piss you off. If anyone says no, that's factually incorrect. You had an academic potential for high school and then it was fulfilled by definition. That's how potential works.
Yes.
What did you say?
Okay, I said no, and I'm going to explain why.
Okay.
I said that I think, I can't remember exactly because Notability decided to delete it and I haven't gone back to refill it out since.
So you haven't sent it yet?
Oh, no. The people I asked for, I'm sorry, admin, if any of you are listening. I know Tally occasionally listens. Hi, Tally. I hope you're doing well. But I said something along the lines of, I was writing it at like midnight, and I was feeling very upset about my grades at the time. I have majoritively A's. Actually, I have all A's right now. Go me. But,
Yes! Yes! Good job!
Thank you. But I was talking about how I don't think the education system caters to learning. I think it's the same arguments that everyone makes. I think it's, having people memorize and spit it out and only testing that, and it's not testing your emotional intelligence, which is so important.
It tests your capacity to handle your emotions, though.
Yes, or not handle them. Sorry, I got distracted. Frank has just this wonderful little sewn collage that says F. Hurley Productions, and it's so professional. It's just lovely. That is a wonderful.
My grandma made that.
I love it. Thank you, Grandma Hurley. Thank you. It's great. Anyway, I don't think that the education system caters to proper learning. It doesn't test your social skills, your interpersonal relations, how you can communicate, or anything like that. I'm sure you've met people who are just idiots, just so stupid, but I'm sure they have above a 4.0.
I mean, idiot's a strong term.
Yes, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, I definitely think there are multiple types of intelligence, and there are some that are more, have more of an affinity and a potential to excel in school than others. Yeah. But I totally agree that school you don't actually learn what they're teaching you, right? You don't go to high school to learn math and English and science and stuff. But I'm not sure that that's necessarily all that bad, because you do learn how to work the system, right?
Yeah, of course.
And that's the most important skill.
Yes, if we're going to overthrow capitalism, that is the most important skill.
Is to blend in.
The people listening on Spotify can't see it, but I looked directly into the camera and smiled. It was great. But I to make a ramble, long story short, I just finished with, I don't think I reached my potential in this system, particularly not so much at Monte Vista, but just every American school, because I don't think it is designed to have students reach their full potential.
So for context, the question was, do you feel that you've reached your academic potential in high school? If so, why or why not? And I said, I'm not sure if my response to that is about that question in particular, but like you heard, I said, yes, I found out what my academic potential exactly was, and now I have a documented evidence of what my academic potential for high school was. Because sure, you can have a higher mental propensity for something, but if you don't have the work ethic to do it, then that decreases your potential.
Yeah.
But my senior survey was so great, because I literally went on multiple rants about how I am not a good student and why colleges don't want me. I literally said, if you are a college admissions officer reading this, just know that you do not want me at your school.
If that ain't the mood of the century. But
and hopefully
wow.
I don't know, hopefully it's the best of both worlds, because on one hand, I'm sticking it to the man, but on the other hand, I'm playing hard to get, right? Now they want to convince me that the system works. And so it's yeah,
USC calls and they're like, hello, I heard that you don't think any colleges want you.
Yeah.
Well.
Wait till you see our college.
Wait till you see, Stanford or USC,
we actually are right for you.
Yeah, we actually do cater to every single specific student, even though we have over 8,000 kids at our campus. Of course we cater directly to you, and we want to show you that. But more on, the academic potential and, having a marking for it. It's going to get a little bit deep, but don't get sad. In sophomore year, we were in chemistry together.
Yes.
And during sophomore year particularly, I was really anxious all the time. I'm a naturally nervous person, but it was just extra bad in sophomore year. And so chemistry was the first class I ever got a C in, which was big for me, because freshman year I didn't even get a B. And then sophomore year it was A, C, A. And it was so upsetting to me that I would have anxiety attacks at least once a week.
People always asked me why I had a C in chemistry, and I said, alliteration, stupid. That's why I got a B in Bible.
I love alliteration, but it's a great literary device. I think it's great.
It is. But anyway, chemistry.
Yeah, I understood the material. It's just that the environment of that classroom became less learning and more just this is the room that makes me anxious. This is the material that makes me feel bad about myself and my, ability to learn. And, I'm really people pleasing. Less so now, but I really was. earlier in high school, and I was just really, really wanted approval from authority. And the fact that I didn't have an A, the fact that I didn't have an A in chemistry just made me really upset because I thought Miss Tarr was wonderful. I think she's, and you have different opinions.
No, I don't dislike Mrs. Tarr, for the record. And like, I know that if I had serious beef with a teacher, I wouldn't say it on this podcast, but like dead serious, I actually like Mrs. Tarr.
Okay, good. We cleared that up. But
I just hate chemistry. So those two things kind of collide when you're in her class.
Which is fair. Yeah. I think Mrs. Tarr is a lovely woman, and she like helped discover an element, and she was there for the Human Genome Project, and I think she's kind of a legend to have at a school, you know, that's a little bit unknown on the broad spectrum. Like Monte Vista is, you know, a good school, but when I say I go to Monte Vista, people aren't like, oh, Monte Vista, like they are like, oh, Santa Catalina. You know, like whenever I talk about Monte Vista, they're like, where's that? So I think it's really cool that you have someone like Miss Tarr there. And I just really wanted to impress her because I was, you know, 15, and I was like, I'm an adult now, I'm 15, and really wanted to prove to authority that I was like, you know, responsible and could do all of this like difficult work. And I took chemistry honors more to be like, you know, of course I'm in an honors class, of course, because I, you know, I'm a responsible, smart person, and of course I can be in an honors class, and not actually considering the work that goes into doing something like that. And so it just made me really, really upset that I didn't do it well.
Yeah. No, I think I said this before, is that I took chemistry honors because I was in regular biology freshman year.
I was in regular biology,
and I felt
too.
like a second-class citizen.
I felt so stupid.
Yeah, exactly. You're just on a different plane than everyone else. So I thought, well, I don't even care how I do in the class. People can't really see that. I just want to be in chemistry honors to have that experience. And I got a C in chemistry. I got a 79 both semesters.
Me
I
too.
almost got a B.
I got a 78 and a 79.
Ha, I did better than you. But I, like, despite all of the immense stress and pain and boredom that it caused, I can only imagine that if I were in regular chemistry sophomore year, I would feel even worse about myself.
I don't feel bad about talking about Mr. Bingham because he's not here anymore, but imagine. Yeah. Imagine if you were in Mr. Bingham's class.
I always was kind of annoyed by the chemistry honors. Like, I would always kind of lay off Mr. Bingham because I never met him. I never met the guy. And the chemistry honors kids who would be like, yeah, Mr. Bingham, did you hear about what Mr. Bingham did? I bet Mr. Bingham, blah, 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 is so true, it's terrible, teacher should be fired. It just seems like it's patronizing. I felt, because spiritually, I felt I was more of a regular chemistry kid. And so it seemed patronizing to us as like the, you know, the less advanced kids. But hey, we're in chemistry honors, but we still have sympathy for you. We still love you. Don't worry. And I'm like, shut up. You're stoked that you're in chemistry honors.
Yeah, honestly. I don't know. There's something so like, I was going to say something that I can't say. Tooting your own horn about... Like,
you can swear on the podcast, for the record.
Okay, there's something that it just feels so much like sucking your own dick when you talk about like, oh, I'm in 4 APs and I'm doing well, and I'm not. I'm in 2 APs, but it's the same sort of.
Are you doing
like,
well?
I am doing well.
All right.
But it feels so like self-gratifying when you talk about being in advanced classes and doing well, because I don't know what it is. I just feel so, and it's awful. I really, really hate when I catch myself doing this, but I just love feeling superior, and I hate that about myself.
Oh yeah. No,
I hate it.
Feeling superior is awesome. It's
yeah,
because,
but
like, when
I hate that I know it feels awesome. I hate it. I don't want to feel superior to people, and I don't want to recognize feeling superior as feeling good. It's probably
that's
the
fair.
Catholic school, but
I remember one of my because sophomore year was the worst for me as far as like academics and grades and stress about that and freaking out about that. And one of my plans was to get a little 1 foot by 1 foot whiteboard and write out my 7 classes and my current grade in each class.
Yes.
And did I like say that before or something?
I remember you saying it, and I remember hearing it coming out of your mouth in person.
Okay, so I don't think I said it on the podcast.
Okay.
Good. Yes, really dedicated listeners, if you are out there, you might get annoyed by the repetition, and just hang it around my neck, and walk around as a way to try to just go even further and further with the self-shame in order to achieve something. And Honestly, I wish I did, because it would have been such a statement.
Yeah.
It would have just like really just let it sink in that this is what you're doing to me, school. This is what you're doing to me, academic culture.
Oh my God. You're breaking
Even if
down.
it made my grades worse, it would have been worth it.
Yeah. Oh man. Just there's something so like cathartic about just screaming about authority. I don't know. It's great.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice scapegoat.
Yeah. Even if you don't know what you're talking about, sometimes it's good to just be like, fuck authority.
Yeah. No, that's always what you have to do. Mm-hmm. Sometimes. Always, sometimes.
Always, sometimes. 75%.
Mm-hmm. Let's see how long we can keep the silence going for before they get mad. They're already mad.
Don't edit it out. Leave it in there.
I don't edit anything out, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah.
This is sink or swim podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So to recap. Chemistry honors kind of sucked.
Chemistry honors sucked. Yeah.
But
Miss Tar didn't.
Yeah,
You're the G, Miss Tar.
Yeah, Mrs. Tar, if you're listening.
You're the G. I want to look you in the eye and say, Marcia Tar, you are the G. Congratulations, and walk away.
That would be a little bit of a weird interaction. I'm not sure that would actually work out in real life.
All of my interactions are a little off kilter.
Okay,
I'm really socially anxious.
A little was an understatement.
I'm really bad at being social. I'm really bad at talking to people. It's just not something I ever learned how to be good at.
Yeah, whose plan was to put two of us in a room?
I was talking to Estelle about that, and she was like, "You guys are so socially anxious. You guys, it's not gonna. You gotta get over it. You know."
Yeah. Yet another podcast where we mention Estelle. Not a bad thing.
I love you, Estelle. I love you so much. I love you, Estelle.
But yeah, let's show these non-socially awkward people that we actually can pull off a podcast.
Yeah, no, my ankles are so tightly wound together, and my hands have been wringing themselves the entire time. It's been 41 minutes, and it's been the whole time.
But we don't have to let them know that. We can look like... Sorry. We are trying to demonstrate that we are capable at talking to one another, and we've already just totally hit rock bottom.
Just awful. What was the last movie you saw?
Last movie? I don't watch movies.
You don't watch movies?
I have seen so few movies.
Oh, man.
God, what was the last movie I saw? It would have been like forever ago. I think it was Solaris, the 1972, the Tarkovsky movie.
I do not know that movie.
It's really long and slow. It's a Soviet movie. Do you know Andrei Tarkovsky? Soviet
I'm going to say yes for the sake of the story.
Okay.
I don't, but yes.
Anyway, he's a filmmaker who makes really slow movies that look really cool. And the plot is that the Soviets have this space station around a planet called Solaris. And they've only got 3 people left on the crew because there's been some weird stuff going on the planet, and they like tried to fly down there, and they lost someone, but then there was this strange testimony about like seeing a giant baby and stuff.
Okay.
No, that's actually what happens.
Oh.
And so they get some cosmonaut guy who's living out in some rural area trying to just have a normal life. But he was a cosmonaut or something like that. It's been a while since I've seen this.
Yeah.
And they say, he's a psychologist. And so he's a psychologist. They want to send him up to the space station to check on the remaining 3 members because they all seem to be going crazy.
Yeah.
And he gets up there. One of the 3 crew members has killed themselves and left this long rambling video message. He sees random people that aren't part of the crew on the ship, and then his dead wife appears to him on the ship. And basically what they realize what happens is people from your memories become real again when you're in close proximity with Solaris. That's like a weird radioactive, because back then everything was radioactive. That's just how it worked. It's a radioactive quality of the planet. And so then it's just 2 hours and like 45 minutes of them deliberating on all these important questions about life. And there's a legitimately, like, I loved watching it, 5-minute, I'm not exaggerating, 5-minute scene of a car driving through a highway.
Oh, fantastic.
It's so good.
Just wonderful.
There's not even any music. It's just traffic sounds, and it's just driving, and then it cuts to a close-up of the driver, and then it's driving again.
That's some of my favorite cinematography. Just like deliberately slow. Like, you have to watch this.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be too long, but you're gonna watch it and you're gonna appreciate it.
That's like life.
Yeah. I'm in Mr. Scott's film analysis class, which, shout out to Mr. Scott. You're one of my favorite teachers on the campus. I wish you were treated better. I love you with my whole heart and soul. Thank you. But just there's the first movie we watched was Vertigo by Alfred Hitchcock. And it was one of the first movies that introduced like color theory to Hollywood, you know, like using colors deliberately and symbolically. And there were so many shots where it was just like looking at something for a long time, and it kind of gave you a chance to figure it out. And, you know, Alfred Hitchcock is so deliberate with what he puts in a shot and how that will translate to the audience. And I think it's just really important for media to be more intentional than what it's doing right now. I think that for the last like few decades, media has been very much, you know, create what you can and just get it out there to make money. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Mindless media is sometimes good. You can absorb it, and it, you know, it's relaxing. It's you know, it's everything you want on just like a Friday night where you've been going all week and you just don't want to use your brain anymore. But I'm so happy that like media within the last like year or so has been getting so much closer to something like Vertigo, like using colors deliberately and dialogue symbolically and just really putting meaning behind stuff. It makes me really happy.
How much of that is retroactive analysis though? Because the popularity of the video essay genre that analyzes a movie or something.
I don't watch video essays.
I don't like them, but I still watch them just out of sheer boredom. Because for whatever reason, there are like billions of videos on YouTube, and I still can't find one that looks interesting. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'll watch this. God, you're welcome, YouTube.
Yeah.
But I've just always been skeptical of just how much symbolism there apparently is in movies and in cinematography and stuff. And I think that a lot of what happens is that a movie is such a big, complex process to make that stuff just happens.
Yeah.
And then we have such pareidolia as humans that we assign meaning and assign patterns and symbols to stuff that wasn't really there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure, like, yes, red means anger and passion, and blue is cold, and like I get that those can be used effectively and whatnot. But.
Yeah. Well, with Vertigo, it was because the movie came out so many years ago. I'm gonna spoil this one too. Vertigo is about a guy who we watched it in August. I'm trying to remember. A guy who used to be friends with this bridge builder. It's set in San Francisco, and
they're doing an independent reading project where they have to analyze a book.
Yes, absolutely. They have to write a book and then paint it onto the side of the San Francisco Bridge, and just, you know, let the hippies of San Francisco decipher it. But this our main man, our leading man, used to be a detective, and he's super scared of heights, and it gives him roll credits vertigo to be up high. And so this whole plot is like, you know, the bridge builder wants to kill his wife, and you don't know this until the end, and he ends up doing it. And so he hires an actress to like fake fall in love with our leading man, who used to be a detective and is rehired to, like, you know, follow his wife around and do stuff like that. And they, you know, it's set up that they fall in love, and it's not a particularly, you know, revolutionary story. You know, today.
Revolution, comrade.
The revolution. That was not Russian. I don't know what just came out of my mouth, but
that was American with dotted R's.
Yes. But the color theory isn't like red is mad and green is envy. It's like red symbolizes this one person in particular, and green symbolizes this one person in particular. And so it hints at you for the entirety of the movie, like, this person is not who they say they are. They're disguised as someone else. And this person has hidden intentions. They are acting on the intentions of this person. And that's how color is used. And when you rewatch it a few times, you're like, whoa, they were telling you from the get-go that this person was evil and this person was not who they said they were.
So, but does that impact the first viewing? If they didn't use the color, if you are only allowed to watch the movie once and they didn't use color theory, would it change?
No. The first time around, it really doesn't make a difference. I think it might be because Mr. Scott told us specifically, look at the colors, they're, symbolic, and so I did. But the only two scenes that stand out to me is, like, the girl who was an actress acting as this wife is dressed in red most of the time. And
I was waiting for a really complicated color, like
no.
aqua, magenta, maroon. It's just red.
No, and the guy who is our leading man, the detective, is dressed in... Or no, I got it wrong. The actress is green, the guy is red. And...
Spoilers.
Sorry. And there's this one scene after the actress has purposefully thrown herself into the San Francisco Bay and tried to drown, and the detective goes in and saves her, and she acts like she's been passed out all this time. And she comes out, like, wrapped in a towel, male gaze, cinema, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. And the guy is now wearing a red sweater. Mm-hmm. Or, no, he's wearing green. I'm so sorry. He's wearing green in this scene instead of red. And that was one thing I noticed where I was like, he's wearing green. He's not wearing red anymore. How odd. But it didn't mean anything to me in the moment. And then there's this one scene towards the end where the detective has found out that the lady is an actress and he's still in love with her and she's still in love with him. And there's this scene where it's really, really good. Like, they use a dolly shot and they circle around them, and they have to change the set while it's happening because they don't have CGI yet. So they have to, like, change the set and make it look like they're in a place where they fell in love and then change it back to a hotel room. And it's really cool. But the whole thing is lit up bright neon green to symbolize the lady, and that she is the one who's kind of controlling the situation right now, and that he's infatuated with her and he's not thinking about anything else right now. And that was the one where I was like, wow, romantic. And of course it's not romantic. It's, like, manipulative. Mm-hmm. But, you find that out by the end. But it was just, that's the only thing I can remember from the first viewing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just think that bold use of color looks cool.
Yeah, bold use of color does really look cool.
So that can help.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I've wondered, like, what would happen if you made a movie with deliberately zero symbolic meaning. It's mm-hmm. just face value. And it's a cool movie. It's not some, like, super dumb movie that doesn't have any meaning. It has legitimate meaning. There's just no latent content. There's no symbolism. And then just see what people try to come up with.
Yeah. That would be so fun. Please do that. I know you're trying to go to college for film. Please do that.
I'm trying to go to college for film. I'm trying to figure out something to do besides just be a stagnant tumor on society who's taking up resources.
Yeah.
Which I guess maybe trying to be a filmmaker is not a particularly good. Never mind. I'm just going with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah. Just going where life takes you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That probably made a pretty big noise, didn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, I heard that, but I'm not sure if it went through the headphones or not. Anyway, I'm stalling because I'm trying to think of what I was gonna say. Yeah, I just think that like, oftentimes the best cinematography is what is aesthetically pleasing, or is just communicates pretty directly the emotion that you're trying mm-hmm. to feel. And we were talking about slower paces earlier, and just, like, kind of letting everything sink in. And I always kind of really enjoy that. Mm-hmm. Just kind of sitting there and letting you feel mm-hmm. what the setting is.
Yeah.
I love settings that have an emotion that communicate.
Yeah, there's a movie called Birdman that's really good about that. As often as they can, they do scenes in just one shot, which is really cool, and I really appreciate it. But there's many scenes, and one of the first projects we did for Mr. Scott was taking just one scene and analyzing just the shit out of it. Just taking it to hell and back, finding symbolism. And there's one really drawn out scene where the main character is just stumbling down the street drunk, and it just watches him walk for like 3 minutes. And it's really good. Like, just watching him stumble along and listening to the doled out sounds of the city around him, because he's in New York and he's, like a washed up Broadway actor, and it's this whole thing. But just watching him walk was so, like, poignant to his character.
Yeah. And if it was a poorly done walking scene, if mm-hmm. it just, like, if the audio sucked and it didn't look cool, then it wouldn't work.
It would make me hate the scene and make me want to skip over it and make me think worse of Birdman all around. But I don't know, there was something about it where I was like, I have to analyze this, and I did, and it was great.
Yeah, and that's why, like, I'm not, I swear I'm not just being pretentious, but I like Blade Runner more than Blade Runner 2049. I like the original one.
I have seen neither.
Oh, dang it.
The only scene I know is from a Tumblr post, because I used to be a Tumblr teen, where they someone made a reference to Blade Runner where, like, you know, I'm so tired, I'm gonna stick a pin in my hand, Blade Runner style, and I looked it up, Blade Runner pin in hand, and it was just like a pin stuck, you know, kind of like a sewing thread where it was just like in and then out. And I was like, how weird, and that's my only thing I know about Blade Runner.
Well, yeah, it's a very slow-paced movie, and if you go on, I love going on IMDb reviews, and just like, because if it's a movie that everyone loves, there are a bunch of positive reviews, and then you get to the wave of 2-star reviews. Yes. And I just love trying to like see what people come up with to like hate on movies that everyone loves. And so a lot of people don't like that it's slow and there are scenes where nothing really happens, but like I like just sitting there and being in that really gloomy, you know, beautiful looking but really gloomy and sad environment. And I like you know, I like the early 80s version better than the newer made objectively better looking version, because it feels more distant. And so if you're trying to pull me into a maybe this is a little bit weird, but if you're trying to pull me into a world that isn't mine, then I like that there's the haze of a time that I didn't experience there. And that, I don't know, it's for some reason, can we talk about this? Why the 1980s seems so sad? Everything, and my parents who were born in 1974, they're total like prime time to be 80s kids. They just will swear that it is the best decade
Are they
of
boomers?
all time. Well, that depends on your definition of boomer. The way that a lot of people have been using it, anyone over the age of like 7.5 is a boomer.
No, your parents are like Gen X.
No, my parents are like smack dab in the middle Gen Xers.
Yeah.
And they swear that the 80s were awesome.
Yeah.
But every time I see media from the 80s,
it
just my heart sinks. And that doesn't mean it's bad. A lot of stuff from the 80s is really cool, but it's just like depressing for some reason.
Like, I watched The Breakfast Club for the first time, I think like a year ago, and I was just like sitting and watching it because I was deliberating whether I wanted to watch it like at a sleepover I was gonna throw. I don't know. But I was like, this is so like not pleasantly nostalgic, just sad.
Yeah. I often feel that way for like 80s music. Like a love song from the 80s just seems so, like it's just an endless pit of despair for some reason. I don't know why. Something about the overly reverb synth sounds. It's not bad. But it's just really, really depressing.
People were so sad in the 80s. Goodness.
Yeah. I like The Breakfast Club.
Yeah, I think there's some value to it, and I think it properly captures, like, you know, not to use like a weird term, teen angst. I think it captures that properly. I really like the dynamic between like the princess lady, I can't remember her name, and
I forget her name, but she's a
very famous actress.
Yeah, what's hold on.
Her name?
I've got this. Keep talking. I will remember it.
Anywho, I really enjoy the dynamic between her and the guy who punches the air at the end. I think just him like taunting her for seemingly no reason but they like end up getting together. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of value behind, you know, showing how strangely teens portray their emotions. Are you okay?
I'm really frustrated by the fact that I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
This is getting to my core. Hold on. I swear I've got this.
I know Ryan dressed up as her for Spirit Week in freshman year. What is her name?
I know exactly who this is.
Yes.
Why can't I remember the name?
We're making everyone so mad.
Don't you hate it when this happens? Yeah. The one time when I actually need to recall this person's name. Okay, I'm sure if we keep my new strategy, talk about something else, and then it'll come to me.
I was talking. You and Nick talked about this a lot, but when we were filming your short film for Cal Arts and other colleges, I briefly mentioned that I was considering comedy as a career.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, comedy's cool.
Yeah. For the longest time, I wanted to be like a marine biologist, and then I realized that's kind of stupid. I don't know what made the link in my head, but I was like, that's stupid. And that was like 1st grade to 7th grade. And then 8th grade through freshman year, I wanted to be a
Molly Ringwald.
Yes!
Boom!
Molly Ringwald!
That was way harder than I thought it would be.
Oh, yay. Yay you.
The strategy. Okay, in all seriousness, I was not listening to what you were saying. I was just thinking, what the hell is her name?
No, of course. Ooh, Molly Ringwald. Nice.
It's a cool name.
Yeah, that is a good name. Good for her.
Okay. So you wanted to be a marine biologist.
Yeah, for the longest time I wanted to be a marine biologist until like 7th grade, just because I loved the aquarium growing up. I grew up in Monterey.
The aquarium is awesome.
The aquarium is so cool. And then 8th grade through 9th grade, I wanted to be like a doctor because I grew up around hospitals a lot. I was just always grew up around that environment. So I know like the inner workings of hospitals and whatnot. And then sophomore year, I was like, I want to be deep. I want to help people. So I was like, I'm going to be a English teacher.
Something about that last sentence didn't quite connect. Like you were going somewhere and then you went somewhere else.
I don't know. I mean, the most influential people in my life have always been like English teachers. And I don't know what that was like in my brain. I was always just drawn to the English teachers. And I still am. I always really like my English teachers. And then in my junior year, I had another like English teacher where I need to be a doctor, and that was just like me panicking and settling on a career. And then this year, I was like, well, I don't want to do anything. So
I'll be a comedian.
Exactly.
Sorry, I finished your punchline.
No, you were right. Well, I wanted to be like. This is gonna sound really stupid. I wanted to like live in the mountains and raise bees. I wanted to sell honey.
And be a comedian?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Because usually comedians go to metropolitan areas where they...
No, I wanted to live in the woods and have a little cottage. I wanted to make sure there was a library in the cottage. I wanted to raise bees and sell the honey. I thought it would be a peaceful life. And that's so stupid.
I like bees. Wait, no, I'm not. Holy shit.
Ryan, we got him. We got him, Ryan.
Ryan,
we got him.
That was embarrassing.
Oh, success.
That's like the few times where I've criticized communism in front of people, and everyone's just like, oh my God, I forgot.
We got him.
Anyway, keep going.
Oh. No, I'm going to let you simmer.
I finally broke character. Anyway, so you wanted to raise insects.
Say it.
So, yeah, social insects that make honey.
I'm not going to accept it.
You wanted to raise, you wanted to have an apiary. Okay, you wanted to have bees. Move on. Yeah. An animal that I like. Yes, it's true.
Wonderful. Carry on. So, and I was like, I just want to be peaceful and I want to be free. And then I was like, that's stupid. And so then I just like decided on being a doctor again, kind of. And then a few weeks ago, I was having dinner with a friend, Cody, Dakota Paul, and Maddie Ackerman. And we were talking about college because Maddie was talking about like submitting her application to like Juilliard and studio school and all these arts colleges. And I was like, I guess I'm gonna go to medical school because that's the only one where I guess I could feasibly make a good living and not the thing is I don't particularly want a lot of money. I just want to live freely, but unfortunately those two things are equated nowadays.
Yeah, well, I mean, the doctor, I guess you could carve out a lot of free time.
Yeah, but because you only work like 4 days a week if you're not an on-call doctor. Mm-hmm. But we were talking about it for a long time. We were sitting in this really dimly lit Indian restaurant in the middle of nowhere, and we were just like talking, eating naan bread, really bad naan bread, like not good.
Okay, I'm gonna admit how culturally illiterate I am. I thought it wasn't bread. It was like some fake bread for a second. It's non bread. I know NAN.
Well,
I thought you were criticizing the restaurant. It's like, it wasn't even bread. I don't know what it was. It was like non-bread.
I mean, it didn't taste like it. Naan actually means bread. It's like the same as saying the Sahara Desert or the chai tea, but non-bread, bread. And we were talking about it, and Cody was like, why don't you think about comedy? Like, you've always really liked comedy for the extent that I've known you. It's just always been something you've been interested in. And instantly I was like, no. And he said, why? And I couldn't answer him. Could not give him an answer. And he's real snobby. I love him so much, but he is just the type of person that's like, haha, you don't have an answer. I'm right. And so I went home and I was thinking, and I was like, I do really like comedy. I've liked comedy for as long as I can remember, like a really long time. It's been one of my only consistent like hobbies that I've really liked to. I like being funny. I'm not very good at it right now, but we improve skills.
Yeah, making people laugh is a particular little rush that you get.
Yes, it's like glorious in the moment. You're like, I made people laugh. I made them be happy for a second. That's so cool. Mm-hmm. And I was considering all the people I've ever looked up to, and it was always, funny comedians. It was always like John Mulaney or Jenny Slate or, Bill Hader. Bill Hader is a big one in my life right now because he was just in the It movie, and that was a good movie. I don't care what you guys say about it. It was a great movie. A lot of people don't think it was good. It was great. But I just really look up to all of these people who enjoy making other people happy. And I think what initially drew me to them was that they were so confident. And I did not have any confidence until I was like 12 or 13. And so I was like, wow, I want to be like them. And I just never considered that I could. I never considered that I could be that sort of person. And so now I am considering it more and more because Cody has helped me realize, as much as I hate to admit that he was right, he was, that it's entirely feasible to have a career out of it. Maybe I'm not going to be as successful as, Bill Hader, John Mulaney, Jenny Slate, but you could do that. You could write comedy for a TV show. You could do occasional stand-up sets somewhere else, and it's non-reliable. And I hate so much that my brain has said, this is your passion, this is what you like, and you finally found it. And I hate that it's an unreliable career.
Don't you hate those people whose passion is like being an accountant?
Oh my god, I hate the people who were like, I want to be a doctor.
Yeah, and they're genuinely interested in it.
They genuinely want to do it. Yeah,
they genuinely like being I want to be a lawyer.
I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a college professor. Mm-hmm. Like, that's so cool. Thank you so much. I hate you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I hate you. And it's just, it's just so frustrating when you finally find something you enjoy and you want to make a career out of it, and it's not one of the reliable ones. It's like one of the least reliable ones. Because even... I feel like comedy is something that is so intrinsically, weird word to say, intrinsically artistic. Yes. Where there's no cold heart. Like, you can film weddings and stuff, and that sucks. That's not an artistically fulfilling job, but it's still, you apply that same skill set that you would to making an actually, like an actual video or film or something. Whereas, like, comedy, it has to, your heart has to be in it. Your heart by definition. Literally. And the last like 3 years, the only thing that has made me happy has been performing with my friends in the theater program. And I only started performing 3 years ago. My first show was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which was the musical of our sophomore year. And that was really fun. I played a man. I had a spirit gum beard. Fun story. The night of our cast party, so spirit gum is like medical grade adhesive, and it just sticks stuff onto your face, and so much that you can sweat just gallons and it won't come off. And there's a special chemical that you rub on it and it gets it to dissolve, but it's a really slow, painstaking process. And I got this whole beard. It was like, traditional man beard where it was like from my ears.
As opposed to a woman beard.
Well, you've seen, The Greatest Show. They had that one woman with a beard. But it just, very, very full face beard. And I got all the way down to my chin area, and this was the only thing that was left. And I was like, you know what, fuck it. And I yanked it. And it took off, like, parts of my skin. Mm-hmm. And that's why I have acne on my chin now. Oh, I never had pimples on my acne ever before, but,
You never had pimples on your acne?
Yes.
For a second, I was worried that like, pimples and acne are different, and that I didn't know that before.
I never had pimples on my acne. Thank you. No, I never had acne on my chin before. And it just, it opened up a world of new bacteria and germs and wonderful things that I just ripped my skin apart at night trying to get out. Mm-hmm. But
it was worth it.
It was worth it.
Performance.
Oh, it was so worth it. I was bad. My first performance, it was not good. Because I was one of two girls playing in, it's the story of Joseph who gets, like, sold into slavery and whatnot. Christians, you know the story.
Shout out to all the Christians out there.
Gang, gang. I would say solidarity, but but you know the story. And so I played Issachar, one of the brothers, and I, had to be a manly man, and I'm 5'1". I am not, a traditionally manly person. Not that there aren't, manly 5'1" guys out there. We stan our laterally challenged kings. But vertically challenged, what does lateral mean?
Oh, God, I don't know. It might be this way. It might be.
Yeah,
vertically challenged is the conventional term.
Okay,
though.
Let's go with that. But I just loved it. I recognized that I wasn't the best one in the cast, and I knew that, it was entirely Miss Hoy just, like, taking a chance, because I hadn't been in a theater class. The two shows before I had been in the theater, but I was doing makeup. And so Maddie Ackerman, I was walking up from Mr. Scott's class, and she was like, hey, are you auditioning for Joseph? And I was like, no, I don't think so. Cause sophomore year, I was anxious. And she was like, do it. And I was like, no. And she was like, you have to. And I was like, okay. So I went. And I sang Burn from Hamilton, which you're not supposed to sing songs from popular shows because I don't know, they just don't want you to. I don't know.
They're sick of hearing them?
Yeah, they're sick of hearing them. And I remember my voice cracked the third word I sang, and I saw Jack Wilkins scribble something down on a notebook as soon as my voice cracked. And I was like, oh God, so then I couldn't look at them anymore, and I just looked at, like, the exit sign and sang to the exit sign. And I wasn't acting, I was just standing there, just stiff as a statue, and I was, like, making little motions with my hands trying to act, but I was mostly just singing. And the line goes like I burned all the letters, you sleep in your office, the world has no right to my bed, you sleep in your office instead. I don't know, but it's like two lines that sound similar, but they're not the same, and I sang the first line twice. And then I stopped because I didn't have backup music. I wasn't prepared to audition that day, and Miss Hoy was just like, stop, it's fine. And I was like, oh, okay. And she was like, thank you. And I was like, okay. So I walked off, and I don't know, she gave me a supporting, which was just entirely her just taking a chance and being like, okay, Madison, I believe you can do this.
Yeah.
And so it was, fully being friends with Ryan in the first place, who got me into the theater community and knowing the theater people, and then Maddie convincing me to audition, and then Miss Hoy taking a chance on me, that just, introduced me to something I so thoroughly enjoy now. Which is, you ever have moments like that where you think of one thing, and if that didn't happen, you wouldn't have experienced something that's really important to you?
Yeah, choir.
Yeah.
Do you know why I joined choir freshman year? So I've never been good, but, like, I've played a bunch of instruments throughout my life. Like, I've played piano at one point, and then I before that I played trumpet and stuff. And so I wanted to do band in middle school. I came to Monte Vista in 8th grade, and I was in the middle school band, and I played trombone. And I had to learn it.
Trombone, so
it's
fun.
a super easy instrument,
really? By
the way. I mean, it's not like fretted in any way, so technically the intonation's kind of hard, but you're just sliding this one thing, and this much is a half step, and this much is a whole step. Yeah. So it's a pretty intuitive learning process.
Okay, yeah.
And so I wasn't like ready to say, well, yes, I can play. I'm a trombone player, but like I learned my music and I learned my stuff for the middle school band. So I was looking at high school classes, and I was like, well, I'll just be in high school band. And I saw that there was band and there was orchestra. And I asked the middle school band teacher, Mrs. Meyer, I said, what's the difference between band and orchestra? And she says, orchestra is like band, but with strings. Now, she probably should have been more clear.
Yeah.
Because what I thought she meant was, it's like band plus strings. But what she meant was, it's like band, but only strings.
Oh.
So I signed up for orchestra
Okay.
as a trombone player. I showed up on freshman orientation, and there was like me and like 3 other freshmen in that class, because I didn't even sign up for beginning orchestra. I signed up for advanced string class, having never played a string instrument.
That's golden. I love that.
And what was his name? Mr. Johnson. Yeah. Remember him? The band director from freshman year? He was talking about how like strings are cool, and went on this whole like opening kind of pep talk about how like string instruments are awesome. And he said, I remember I was kind of self-conscious about it when I was in high school and I was in the orchestra. I would always carry my violin case backwards so that it looked like I had a trombone a little bit. And so I would tell people that I played trombone because I was self-conscious about the fact that I played violin. Which, for the record, Mr. Johnson, if you're watching, everyone has so much more respect for a violin player than a trombone
Indeed,
player.
do.
That's the difference. That's like a easy instrument and an incredibly difficult instrument.
That's like I play the recorder versus I play the oboe.
Yeah. And so he's like, and then he goes and he asks people what they play. And it's like, I'm blank. I play violin. I play violin. I play viola. And I had to be there like, I'm Frank, and I play trombone. So that was really awkward. And so I had to, I was faced with a decision. Either I switch out of that and I do Mustang Band, or I stay in advanced orchestra and learn a string instrument real quick. And then on that very day, we had this big assembly at the beginning of the day. No, that wasn't. So that was orientation. On the first day of school, we had an assembly. Okay. And I sat down. Remember when we were freshmen, we were in the freshman quadrant, and I get down there, and Josh sits next to me, Clymer, and he goes, Frank, you should do choir. And I'm like, I sat there and I thought, oh God, he must not remember what I'm like. He must have forgot over the summer. I'm like, no, of course I'm like, that's the stupidest thing you've ever told me. Why would I do choir? Because let's just be real for a second. Middle school choir sucked. Yeah. It must have been the most embarrassing thing to be up there and singing those children's songs in front of an audience full of middle schoolers. Yeah. We would like kind of make fun of them while they were singing and stuff.
As much as I love that age group, because I work a lot of summer camps, and that age group I like in particular because I'm just really good at like diffusing. I don't know. Can tension be an adjective? No. Tension-filled situations. But as much as I love that age group, it's they're so stupid. They're so stupid.
Okay, but I even think that it's condescending to a 6th grader to have them sing a lot of what was back then the middle school choir material. Yeah. And on top of that, I was in worship team in middle school. I'm not sure if you know this little fun fact.
No, I don't.
Played bass in worship team in 8th grade.
I love that.
And that was not a fun experience because I was exposed to and had to play Christian music every day except for Thursday. Yes. And I like in 8th grade, I made this long video that was loosely tied to the assignment. We had to do a devotion, and you had to most people just found a little 1-minute video, or they made a quick little video for the devotions. But I would always try to have fun with the videos for the combined class. And the assignment was how does God speak to us through art or poetry or something like that. I made a 13-minute video about how much I hate Christian music.
Oh my goodness. I love it.
And half the class hated it and half the class loved it. And for me it was cathartic. Yeah. Because I had been subjected to it for so long. The entire point of all of this is I'm building up that I was not a choir kid. I never sang, and it was always my opinion that when you're in elementary school and stuff and there are talent shows, the people who sang oh, okay, so you're uncreative. If you like that's just was my perspective, is that if you just sang a song at a talent show, that's just exhibit A that you're boring because you're just singing a stupid song.
Yeah,
Who cares?
it's the number one act that everyone does. Like, think of something else.
Yeah. And so Josh was like, Frank, you should do choir. And I was just like, no. And he said, come on, you should really do choir. And I was like, of course not. Sorry, like I'm glad you're doing choir, but and I got home and I was talking to my dad about this dilemma that I had, and he said, well, you know, choir might be a legitimate option. I brought up that Josh told me to do choir, and I literally made a pros and cons list. And I decided, well, let's see here. I have friends. Like, Josh is my friend. He's in choir.
So methodical. And
this was my dad's idea, not my freshman year selves. Make no mistake. And for whatever reason, it just wound up working out that I decided to switch into choir. And I wound up liking it.
Yeah. And then you went through this, like, entire transformative process.
And now I'm still in choir.
Yep. I'm not, like, suck it.
It's battered wife syndrome. It is like an abusive relationship. I keep coming back for more, and I don't know why.
I mean, I will be in there next semester. I just had to take a fucking PE credit this semester, which I'm enjoying dance. It's fun. Miss Angelique Navarro is a peach. She's great.
Can we just talk about the fact that her name is an adjective? I know she tells everyone to pronounce an Angelique, but it's angelic.
I know.
Why would you name your kid an adjective?
It's spelled angelic.
It's not. If it was Angelique, it would be Angelique.
Yes, exactly. Which I think about every single time I say, thank you, Miss Angelique. It's
thank you, Angelic. You could just be like Angel something.
Yeah.
Although that's kind of like a Mexican guy's name, but.
Angel.
So yeah, that's how I started doing choir.
Yeah.
And then I got kind of obsessed with it.
Yeah, you've talked about it in
like every single podcast.
Yeah, the podcast with Nick and the podcast with Josh. I remember most notably was you told like the whole story from beginning to end, which I like hearing. I like hearing that story.
You were in chorale with me.
I was, yes.
Freshman year. What was it like to have me fucking it up for everyone else?
At least Cody did not like you. RTA. I'm so sorry. I thought you were really like a very interesting person. Like I could feel the energy from you. I was like, wow, this guy is like an individual, and I love individuals, people who have their own opinions and have their own interests and are just like, yes, I like this thing, hard stop. And I just love that. And I was like, wow, this person has, you know, opinions and drives, and I really appreciate that. And I don't remember how you sound. I'm sure you remember how you sound, and you say you were bad, and I'm not gonna like dispute with you. I do not remember how you sound. But
you were in the alto section, I was in the bass section. Yeah. We minded our own business.
Yeah. I couldn't hear you over the sopranos. I'm sorry, but I don't know. I never talked to you.
Yeah.
I did not talk to you.
You did talk to me maybe a couple times, but like not significantly.
Yeah, maybe like, hello.
Yeah.
How are you? But yeah, I don't remember much. I got to know you mostly through the class dances, and this year in particular, even though we've never had a class together except for choir in freshman year. But I never saw you because we never switched seats, and you were directly in front of me 4 seats. You were in the front.
I gave you your red pens though.
Yes.
I was
Those are red pens. But I don't know. I've gotten to know you majoritively through this class dance in particular, and I don't know how else. I don't know. I just know you better than I have in the past.
So what did Elise say about me? Now let's get into the nitty gritty, because I do not care about saying the names of people who were mean to me in choir in previous years. Fuck you all.
I don't want to tell you things that are going to make you feel bad about yourself.
No, just tell me. Like, trust me. I already feel bad about myself now, but if you think that I don't already feel bad about myself when I was a freshman,
Frank,
I have no...
Frank, people love and appreciate you, and you shouldn't feel bad about yourself.
Okay, thank you, but me freshman year, maybe that's a different story. Okay? Like, I'm so far removed from him that you can bash him all you want.
Okay, she said 2014? 14 through 2014, Frank?
16 and 17.
Yeah, okay. 2016 Frank, she thought was irritating, too nasally, and had a fake vibrato.
I didn't even... Okay, I probably did have a fake vibrato.
That's what I can remember.
But when every single example of a good choir student is like, woo, 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 you think that maybe I'm gonna try to do that? You think that if you're setting the example and you've literally never sang a straight tone, or I've never heard you do it in your entire life, that wasn't for 1/16th note, that maybe I wouldn't try to emulate that because you're supposed to be the model for what we're gonna be? Holy shit.
So Elise Cody went to college to major in opera music, for those of you listening at home. Yeah, everything you said was correct.
Yeah.
I feel like that was very cathartic for you.
I don't know. I always have a false, especially in choir, because I have had, like I talked about on the Josh podcast, like experiences where people are really frustrated with me, that like I have, just this, perception that they're all like, oh God, Frank showed up today. Well, now we're all going to be thrown off by his too loud and off pitch singing.
I mean, I don't remember anybody saying that, but
So like, I probably sometimes do have a false sense of catharsis. If I get to just like be mean to the people who I think were mean to me, which is probably pretty messed up.
Well, I mean, Elise Cody was in general a mean person. She was not polite. I don't know. She would talk smack about anybody she wanted, and I do not like talking smack about people. I'm sure I've talked smack about a few people, even in this podcast.
Yeah, like Elise Cody.
Like Elise Cody. Well, I mean, I don't feel bad about talking smack about mean people, and she was not nice. But I'm trying really hard to not talk badly about people because I don't think it's a good habit to have. Even like yourself, I don't think people should talk badly about themselves, even in a joking sense, because on some level, it stems from a true thought,
Yeah.
That's why I stopped and was like, stop it.
Okay.
Not to like boss you around, because I don't want to do that either. I just think it's valuable for people to be nice to themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. Elise Cody wasn't nice.
Now you know. The more you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I remember sophomore year at the end. Now we're just getting into like talking about choir stuff, and anyone who wasn't in choir
Yeah, sorry.
is just going to be totally alienated. This
Yeah.
is exactly what they tell you not to do. But Jack gave me the most improved award because for a deaf person, if you couldn't hear, I was indisputably the most improved because I had documented evidence because I started practicing for 30 minutes a day, and I would upload the audio. I would record that, upload the audio of that to a Google Drive folder for accountability.
Cool.
Right. So I literally, I could like literally prove in court that I was the most driven to improve.
That shows like such a strong work ethic. That's so cool.
Yeah, that was like the only thing sophomore year that I had any sort of a work ethic for.
Yeah.
So that was at like the VPA awards night that I got the award. But then the next day or whatever was the next, it must have been a Monday in choir. Jack mentioned, he was like, hey, so someone in our class got the most improved award, blah, 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 blah. And talking about most improved, and everyone was looking around like, oh shit, Paul got an award? I didn't know. And then, and then it was like, and that person is Frank Hurley. And everyone was like, oh, good. Congratulations.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I remember
funny.
like auditioning for solos and complaining to Josh afterwards. It's like, I was listening very intently. My applause decibels were significantly lower than anyone else.
Oh man.
Which, I mean, it's all in my head. And I already talked about this at length with Josh, but like, what else am I going to talk about?
I don't know.
Well, I'm sure, there's lots of stuff, but this is what came to mind now.
Yes. We can talk about work ethic more.
Okay.
Work ethic.
Work ethic.
I don't have good diction in my everyday life.
Only when singing.
Only when on stage, when I need to have correct diction.
Here's the problem, though. You're kind of on stage right now. You're
a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. It's kind of like a live performance, in a sense. Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth on work ethic because like it's there's a scene in the musical where Not Bryce talks to me. Is like, hey, did you hear, Josh was talking about how it's kind of messed up that people who are more intelligent we have sympathy for, but people who just naturally have have a like less of a work ethic or who are just naturally lazier, they don't get really any like sympathy or accommodation from today's society. And that was a thing that Josh actually said to me sophomore year during CCS honor choir. And I just remember thinking in my head, like I interpret it as oh, well, thanks, Josh. Good to know that I'm genetically predisposed to be lazy. I had it. I had this optimistic view for so long that you could improve your work ethic, but no, it turns out it's just like being smart or not smart. You just kind of have it.
I mean, I find myself having a much better work ethic this year than last year, and I don't know why.
I've been worse. I've gotten so much worse.
I don't know. I think it's because I'm so conscious of not getting senioritis that I'm like, okay, you're gonna do much more than you have in past years. So I have.
All right, well, I mean, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, particularly with comedy, to loop it back around. I just, before my conversation with Cody, I just opened like a notes in my phone, and whenever I thought something was funny, I would type it down, or like would think something funny, I would just type it down. And I didn't even realize that that's like what comedians
you've got
do.
a big base of material that you
I had like this huge doc of material that I could potentially make like one of those Netflix special out of. Not that I am anywhere near as talented as anyone on Netflix, because I'm not. I am 17 years old and I am
not a prodigy.
I'm not a prodigy. I'm borderline illiterate at this point. But as Mr. Gentleman,
yes. Now that we know. For a while, I thought that I could read, but apparently not.
But Mr. Gentleman politely, actually not politely, said, "You guys cannot read." I was like, "Thank you, Nathan." I didn't know, genuinely. But no, that's what I was like. Oh, I was already doing.
What he should have done is wrote it on the whiteboard. You guys cannot read.
You guys can't read.
And we're all like, wait, what does that say?
I am Jared, 19.
Mr. Gentleman, what do those symbols on the blackboard mean? I can't decipher them.
And then when we all looked at each other like, what the fuck? I think he was like, wait.
You cannot read.
No, I mean, he clarified. He was like, you just don't understand what you're reading.
Yeah.
You can like see the sentence and know what it says, but you don't know what it means. And I was like, okay, thank you.
That's interesting. Why do I get 7s on the essays then? Your theory's starting to fall apart.
Oh man. He is such a just like a passively wrong person sometimes. You know?
Okay, so what were we talking about?
Work ethic and how
your notebook full of
oh yes, my notebook full of amateur comedy sketches. Not sketches, but you know, bits. What's the word? Jinx. I forgot the word. But I don't know, I was doing all of this work for a career that I wasn't even pursuing and didn't know that I was doing the work for. It's like doing an experiment for chemistry just on your own time. Just be like, I wonder what happens when I do this. And then Miss Tara is like, wonderful, you discovered an element. And not that I discovered, you know, some sort of revolutionary technique in comedy, because I haven't. But, you know, it's the same sort of thing where you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things where when Cody was like, why don't you consider doing comedy? I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the kind of like, huh. And then your brain is empty for 30 seconds because it's just like click, 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 you know, loading screen. Yeah,
I've just not been able to resist the temptation of stagnation. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely feel like I was harder working last year. And what's interesting is that academically I've been fine. My junior and senior year, like freshman and sophomore year is a different story. My junior senior year, like I've maintained above a 4.0. Like I'm fine, like grade wise. But that hasn't really had much of a correlation of how much I feel I'm actually getting done and being productive.
Yeah, which is, you know, frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Frank has this wonderful picture of a cat on his wall that looks so, dare I say, sensual? Just such a... Okay, you guys can't see it. Maybe the camera... No.
Well, okay, my mouse pad, as I was showing Madison earlier, now it's going to be out of focus. No, you can actually see it. My mouse pad is also the same picture of our cat. And so that's what that looks like.
Just fantastic. When you see a poster for a DreamWorks movie and they just have that certain face, like one eyebrow's up and it's like a little smirk and you're like, what you up to? What are you up to, huh? What are you gonna do? It's the same face.
Yeah, that's a good picture, I think.
Yeah. That cat has plans.
That's of our cat, Scully.
After like the TV show?
Yes, they thought it was a girl. So they named it after Dana Scully, but then they found out that him and Hot Dog were both male.
Hot Dog! Adorable.
Hot Dog was the other cat.
Yes.
They were the best cats ever. Scully lived a lot longer, so I kind of was closer to him by the end. And anyone who thinks that they have the best cat ever, you are wrong.
Yeah, I've never had a cat. I want one so bad. I have 2 big dogs and like 4 fish. Never a cat. I want a cat so bad. Cats are superior, and I know that being a dog owner. So everyone who says cats aren't superior.
Have you ever noticed
You're
dog
wrong.
people, like cat people, think dogs are cool, but dog people hate cats?
I know.
Like, what's up with that?
I don't know.
What could possibly inspire, besides some traumatic childhood event, what could inspire you to just have a vitriol for cats?
I do have a real answer for that. It's because dog owners are so used to getting love without working for it from dogs that they don't understand that you have to build a relationship with a cat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people all the time just think, well, cats don't care about you.
Yeah,
Cats are just
right.
totally cold and heartless, which is not true.
Yeah.
You want to know a story about Scully? So I was in 8th grade, and his health was declining, and it was a long, difficult road of like, this health problem started popping up, and this health problem started popping up, and like there would be these like bladders of bile that would build up in his body, and he would get all like he would look like he was pregnant, and then we had to drain all of the
sad.
liquid out of it. There were a couple of visits to the vet where we had to do that, and it just got like sadder and sadder, and you can see that he was getting worse and worse. And so like by the end, and at this point he was 16, and he was always like a super active cat who would so we had 2 cats. My parents got them a couple years before I was born, and so they were like the first children of the family, right? And so Hot Dog, the one who died first, and he died when I was 6, was always like the more people friendly cat. So he would like stay indoors, and he would sleep in our beds, and we would pet him and stuff, and he would always be hanging around the house, whereas Scully would just always be outside in the yard, in the shed, killing
doing
rats and stuff.
Yeah.
And then as soon as Hot Dog died, Scully like filled his role. He started becoming way more of like an inside the home cat, and he would always, like, back when we were homeschooled, he would always kind of like make himself involved. We always like to say that he liked to control the papers, because if there was ever any loose paper or something like that, he would have to get up on the table, and I'd be like, oh darn, he's laying down on my math textbook, Mom, I can't do math homework, and I just get to pet the cat. And so he was very like up and about and around and involved with everything. And like by the end of it, he was just living in the bathroom, and he was on his way out, and we all knew that. And it was like a matter of time. It was like, is he just gonna pass away, or are we gonna euthanize him, or like what? We didn't know what was next. Yeah. And so I got up one morning to go to school, and when my mom was driving me back from school, she said, I think Scully's gone. I think Scully died. And she told me what happened. And this is just like a BTFO to every single dog person who thinks that cats are emotionless and don't get attached to you. So my mom and dad were in their room, like getting ready for bed that night, says my mom. And Scully was living in a different bathroom across the house, and he had not been like moving out or like getting away from there, and could just like barely vocalize anymore. But he walked all the way into their room and was like meowing super loud with like a particularly emotional meow, because cats have different timbres of their meow, and like purring super loud, which he hadn't done in a while. And my dad was in my parents' bathroom, and then my mom was in their bed, and he went in to see my dad first, and he was like meowing and purring at him, and then he went to go see my mom, and then my dad got into bed, and they were like petting him, and he was purring super loud, and like basically remembering all the fond memories that they had of him. And they said that like after a long time of that, after of him going from like he was just like distant, and you look into his eyes and there's nothing there, to like being attentive and seeming all lively again in these last moments. He jumped down from their bed, and it was oddly enough, it was like symbolically raining outside at night, and he walked out of their little sliding glass door into the yard, and we never saw him again. And so he decided that it was his time to go, which sounds so cliched, but it's like literally what happened. And he said goodbye to my parents. Yeah. And cats you do have relationships with cats. It does happen.
Yeah. And it's so painful when a pet dies, because they're not just like an animal, you know, they're part of your family.
Yeah.
And it hurts so much when they die.
No, my cats were my first real friends. Like I had a stronger connection with my cats for the longest time than any person outside of my parents.
Me too, with my childhood dog. Yeah. I remember in 5th grade. Yeah, 5th grade. I had a dog named Chelsea, and she lived to be 17. And so she was around before I was around. My parents got 2 dogs. They were born in the same litter, like brother and sister. And Tucker, the boy, died when I was in like preschool. Like I don't remember him. I don't. And Chelsea died much later. And so when I was like upset, she acted much more like a cat than a dog when I remember her mannerisms. And like, you know, you had to earn her love. And like the dogs I have now, they're well and fine, and I love them. I love them a lot. But they're dogs. And Chelsea was just like my companion. Like I loved her so much. And I remember doing my math homework at the table, and she would always lay like right near the front door, because the way my house is set up, you can see down the hallway and into the living room. So like at the majority of the house from a certain angle right in front of the front door. And so she would always lay there to be able to see the majority of the action in the house. And I remember like she just hadn't moved from that spot for like 3 days, and she hadn't eaten, and she like couldn't like get up to go to the bathroom. So she was just like, you know, going where she was laying. And it was so painful for me. And I didn't really like the people at school didn't really understand, because a lot of them didn't have pets. I don't know why. Even though it's a super common thing to have pets. I remember being really upset, just being like, my dog's dying. And I remember someone going, I can't remember who it was, and they were like, yeah, they do that. And I was like, okay. And
Thanks.
I remember being picked up. Like she was 17, she lived a full long life for a dog, especially a big dog, because big dogs don't live as long as little dogs.
Yeah.
And you know, she had been like that for like 2 weeks, and my parents did not want to euthanize her, because they just couldn't do it. And like she was older than my older sister. And so I was picked up from school one day, and we got in the car and we went to a gas station, and my dad turned to my mom and was like, do you want to tell her? And my mom was like, no, I don't want to. And I was like, what's going on? And my dad turned to me and was like, Chelsea died today. And I was like, oh, okay. And I don't think I had a full grasp on death at the time. Like I knew that she was gone and I couldn't see her, but it felt like she was just like on a vacation, you know? Like she would come back and I'd be like, okay, she's gone for now, but I can see her. And you know, it didn't feel final. It doesn't have the finality that death does now. And I remember like a month later being so upset. I was like, why isn't she here? Where is she? And my parents were like, well, honey, she died. And I don't know. It was just so upsetting. It was so upsetting to me. Mm-hmm. You know. Yeah,
absolutely. Pets dying is really sad.
Yeah.
All you people who don't have pets.
Sorry you missed out. I mean, I guess there's
trust me, it's worth it. Like this.
It's worth it. It's so worth it. It's so worth it. There's so much love, and there's no communication.
Yeah.
Like verbal communication. It's just such a special bond. Like, please get a pet, even a fish. I get so weirdly attached to my fish.
You do?
Yeah, my first fish lived for 7 years.
I've never had really had like one of the like small like zero communication pets.
Yeah.
Or do you communicate with your fish?
You can put your finger on the tank and they'll follow it.
Oh, that's cool.
But
so you can like write out little words and stuff. And
yeah, my first fish I won at Monterey County Fair, and he was tiny, he had little stripes on him, and I remember being like, Mom, I got a fish, and I wasn't with my parents when I won him. I think it was a dude. I don't know. I always was like him, so in my brain the fish is a guy. Could have been a girl. I don't know. But they were like, oh, guess we have to go buy a tank. So we bought a tank, and I named him Speedy because he was very fast. Mm-hmm. And so I would do my homework at the kitchen table, and Speedy the fish was always like 1 foot to my left. Like when I was bored, I would just look over and watch him swim. And so he was a little pal to me, not as much as Chelsea, but a significant presence. And so he lived for 7 years. That is a long time for a tiny little fairfish, especially a fairfish. And so when he died, that was after Chelsea. It was soon after Chelsea. So I was just like, too much. I was so sad for like a few months. And my life has not been like, picture perfect. I've been sad sometimes. But I just decided not to show it, which is, weird. Mm-hmm. Like as a kid, I was on the inside, I was so sad, but on the outside, I was like, hi guys. Hi, how are you? Because that was just what was expected of me. I was always seen as like the optimistic one. And I still am. I'm seen as generally optimistic, generally pretty nice. At least I think so.
Actually? This is why you're on the podcast. We have to break it down.
Intervention time. Yeah, Madison, you're actually a terrible person. Mm-hmm. We have been trying to tell you for the last 4 years, and it's just been too much. I'm sorry.
Yeah, none of us had the heart to break it to you. But, so we put Frank on the case.
Yeah, which is so interesting. Like, I want to shift from death. How like you perceive yourself versus how other people perceive yourself.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a fun mystery.
Yeah.
You're like, how do people perceive me? I don't know, but I guess that's kind of my take on it. Mm-hmm. I think that in our society, there's a little bit too much advice of don't let what other people think affect you, or like other people's opinions of you don't matter. That's just not true.
It's not true. It forms your whole life what people think of you.
That's what I've always said, is that all the people that know me in aggregate, if you average out all their opinions of me, is gonna be more accurate than the person who's never even seen myself.
Yeah. Like, I've never met me.
Yeah, exactly. I've only ever, actually, I did kind of meet myself once. This was a disturbing.
Oh, do tell.
So I was setting up for this podcast.
Yeah.
Right when I was like, we were trying to do it with the D3200, with the different camera as opposed to the webcam. And so in order to test to see that it was working and the audio was working, the video was working, we had it streaming privately on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And then I was signed in on like my dad's phone to my account so that I could see the stream. The problem is there's a 7-second delay. So I had it right there, and I would say, well, I don't know. I guess I'm just testing. Does the audio work? Well, I don't know. I'm just testing. Does the audio work? And it was one of the scariest things. Like
oh man. That's
so
great.
Yeah, that was literally the closest I've ever come to actually having to confront myself. And then eventually I would try to go like and try to harmonize with myself. And
that's so funny. I that came out so sarcastic. That is very funny. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like what we were saying is that I don't actually have I don't think that I have a very clear perception of myself. So it's not like, it's literally not my place to have an. I think that self-esteem is a myth. I think that it's why on earth would the person who is least, I think, like least set out to actually give some sort of objective, unbiased opinion of yourself is you. Why would you trust that person with having some sort of like an opinion or evaluation? I don't really have an opinion of who I am, like, sort of do, but I try to leave that to the people around me.
Yeah. I mean, for as long as I can remember, people have always said like, you're so nice, you're so good with adults. And I was like, oh, I'm nice and I'm good with adults. And so then I like formed my personality about being nice and being good with adults.
And then it's like a chicken or the egg type thing.
Yeah. And it's so weird.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm talking to one of those people who were nice when they were kids.
Yeah.
I was not nice. Like I was thinking I might be kind of the exact opposite, because maybe I'm looking at my early childhood and mid-childhood through like rose-tinted glasses, and maybe I remember it more fondly than it actually was. But like on the whole, I was pretty much fine. Like stuff would happen and I would be mad, or I would be, I would get like super angry about stuff and super invested and sad. But like overall, I didn't feel like a deep dark despair like 80s music or anything like that. But on the outside, I was just like, I was just like, you try to talk to me, and then I just completely, I was the absolute worst at like church when all these old people that you don't know and you don't have any sort of a relationship with, you're like, how are you doing, Frank? Like what and they ask you, oh my God. The worst question it's not even a question, the worst thing you can ever say to a kid.
Can I guess?
Guess.
You've grown so much since
Yes! You got it right! That is a non-conversation starter. And I'm genuinely curious. I wanted, it was kind of on my bucket list as a little kid to just like blow up on some innocent old lady who asked me that. Who told me that at one point, to just be like, let me ask you something. Were you ever a kid? I assume that you remember being a kid.
A little bit, yes.
Were you enthralled? If someone had someone had told you, wow, you've grown so much since I last saw you, would you be itching to like dive into that? Would that be a mentally stimulating conversation?
Yeah, thank you. I went from size 4 to size 5. Really? Did you know that? Because Converse, once you go from past size 4, you have to pay more for the shoe. Did you know? Did you know, Miss Smith, that now I have to pay more for shoes because I don't have size 4 feet anymore? Did you know? You don't seem interested. What's nice
though is that I don't have it like printed or anything, but I've been the same height for like 2 years.
I've been the same height since I was in 6th grade.
So I have like printable medical evidence that I really should keep in my pocket or something. Next time person says, oh, you've gotten so much taller. Well, actually, you last saw me on April 13th, 2018, at which point I was 5'11". I'm still 5'11". Like I swear there are official medical records that can prove that I am not growing taller anymore.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Ugh.
What were we even talking about?
I have no clue. Old people are weird.
We just started criticizing boomers. We're we're going with the.
Oh no. I'm sorry to bring up a intense topic right now. Yeah. There are so many comments online of people being so defensive of being called boomer. I don't know. I watch a lot of YouTube and just the comments are filled with like one person says, okay, boomer. And then you see like the drop down 143 comments. And I'm like, click. And it's all like, you're so ignorant. How dare you judge someone for being an age? And it's like,
I love how like all the generation gap things that used to be very simple. For all of history, there was Juvenoia. There was the old people think the young people are doing terrible. And the young people are like, screw you, old people. But like now it's gotten so much more complex because everyone's self-aware about it now.
Yeah.
Like millennials are the first generation to say, well, actually, you're only worried about our perspective, blah, 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 as a generation because of a psychological effect known as Juvenoia. But I cannot wait for when the millennials are like in their 40s and 50s and they're complaining about the younger generation because they will.
They will.
They will hate us.
Yes.
And it's gonna be so funny.
Yeah, it's gonna be so funny.
Like I'm gonna be really worried about my grandkids' generation. You know, that's just how it's. I just have to accept that.
Oh, the children are the future.
Yep.
And they will lead us.
This time,
yes,
they're all screwed. All the other generations that were stupid kids, they wound up fine. But this time, this one is special.
Yes. It's
So people's perception of you.
People's perception.
What was that all about?
I don't know. Do I have time to get into a little bit of a long story?
Try.
Okay, so
talk fast.
Okay, I grew up. I have an older sister who's 9 years older than me, and an older brother who is 1 year older than me. I don't know why that took me so hard to. That was hard for me to figure out. But my family has never had a fantastic dynamic because my brother was, please don't get sad. Thank you. My brother has a terminal illness, and it's, you know, really shaped the dynamic of my childhood and my life right now and my whole family. And for the longest time, my family was like, you know, this is really sucks, but we have you. You're positive. You know, you're the one who, you know, Courtney's off at college. She doesn't need us anymore, but you're the one. You're cool. We get to raise you. And, you know, my brother, the disease is like his body still grows normally. Like he's 18 and he is a little bit shorter than me. But his brain, he can't like talk. It's like talking to a 3-month-old. It, you know, it kind of similar to autism, but, you know, worse. And so I don't know. It's always been like, you're the optimistic one. You're the one who's, you know, go get him, tiger. You're, you know, so the perception of my parents to me has been, you know, you're the one who, whose emotions are stable, and we can vent to you, which is so damaging to a kid. When parents vent to their children, it's just awful. And, you know, so then I got this complex of like, I'm not allowed to show my emotions, and I have to be, you know, optimistic and happy and strong all the time. And so now I have been working through it. The last 2 years in particular, I've been like, I am allowed to ask for help, and I am allowed to not be happy all the time. I'm allowed to, you know, say my opinion sometimes. And, you know, that's been really cool, but it has really shifted my perspective on myself, because now after, you know, intense introspection, I know that my childhood was majoritively performance, you know, for other people. And, this podcast has been really like up, down in emotions, really. And so I'm trying really hard now to do things for the sake of me, you know, because I haven't had that freedom for a long time. I don't know. It's, you know, everyone's challenges are different.
Yeah.
And no one's conflict in their life should be valued more over someone else's. And it's not a competition in like, oh, I am so much more mentally ill than you. I had so much of a worse childhood. So I don't want it to be like that. I don't want to be like a dick measuring contest in how sad I am.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sad anymore. The last 2 years I've been remarkably better in a mental space, and I am really, really grateful for that. But I think that being told what you are for the majority of your life doesn't allow you to form it yourself, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I think I kind of have the opposite problem, and I always hate referring back to previous podcasts, but like Josh was talking about something kind of similar, where he was always a total people pleaser when he was younger, and he now kind of realizes that a lot of his childhood and what he said and did were performance, and they weren't genuine. It's like, I genuinely don't think I have that problem. And it's at the cost of, I was a total dick when I was a kid.
Yeah, which is okay. Everyone has their flaws going up.
But the result is that I was also like genuine when I was younger. Like I was being, and so when a kid is being themselves, it's not going to be a very pleasant experience.
No.
But now hopefully I can kind of calibrate that, and I feel like I'm a little bit less performing and trying to put on some act now than people lament to me that they are. I'm not going to say, well, that's not really what they're like. They're just putting on something for the sake of pleasing everyone else. But like, people have talked to me as like that's one of their major issues that they feel like, is that they have trouble being who they are. It's like, not to flex or anything, but that's not my issue. And I have all the other same issues. Like I'm X and X and X thing that makes everybody sad and gets me down. It still gets me down, but like not that one. And I'm sure that I have other problems and difficulties that come with it, or trade-off.
Yeah, not to like quote aesthetic Tumblr, but like everyone is at a different place in their self-actualization journey. And, I don't want to talk like, some Tumblr 13-year-old who's like, everyone's at a different spot. in their self-actualization journey. But it's true.
Yeah.
You know, and
sometimes the Tumblr 13-year-olds have something valuable to say.
Sometimes the Tumblr 13-year-old is right. As much as they're gonna just bust a load hearing that. And you know, it's not so much as everyone starts at a different point along the x-axis in their journey, but it's just that, like, it's more of like a spider web. Like, you hit different points, and eventually you're going to get to the middle, maybe not, but you know, you hit the different points, and the points that you hit are really important, and it doesn't matter how bad they were or how good they were, because all of them were, you know, as important to forming you as they were important to forming me. And you know, I'm so grateful that people are different, because if they weren't different, it would be so boring.
Yeah.
You know, and it does matter, but it doesn't matter how I became the person I am, because, you know, as long as people are like good and nice and just being genuine, I think that everyone has value, and it does not, you know, to reference the trauma dick measuring, that doesn't matter. As long as you're a good person and that you contribute something to the people around you, I think that's what's important.
All right, well, everybody listening, sometimes the Tumblr 13-year-olds have some stuff to impart.
Yes.
And we can don't kill the messenger.
No, don't kill the messenger.
And we've pretty much got to wrap it up. But
yeah, what did we learn today, Frank?
God, what did we learn?
Chemistry.
That Molly Ringwald's name is Molly Ringwald.
Ringwald's name is Molly Ringwald.
I was getting pretty scared there for a second, and I just drew a total blank.
All right.
And so hey, you learn something new every day, and if that was our contribution to you, who's the red-haired girl from The Breakfast Club and like every other John Hughes movie, well, there you go.
Yeah.
And
all right.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
It's been awesome.
Yeah, stay beautiful.
Now I've got to hit stop stream.